Five, four, three, two, one. We're live. It's Max with Lunar Replicas. I'm here with Brandon Franklin, also with Lunar Replicas.
Hello.
Hey, Brandon. Hey, wait a minute. Let's do this. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing great. We had an incredible couple of trips over the last few months, and some new products and stuff that are coming out that I haven't really talked about that much, I guess. But this should be cool evening to chat about a couple things, and we'll catch up and see what else is going on now. Let me see if everything's moving slowly. Let's see if everything's moving slowly here. Is this? Hey, good. All right, we're live. Check that out.
I'm
All
checking
right.
the phone too.
We're the only two people watching our own show. That's great. But yeah. So how you been? I haven't seen you in a couple weeks.
Been good. Just been working. Getting back down to the shop after completing the Triumph Herald, which is good to finally have that project done and actually enjoy it and drive around. And yeah, so it's been a lot of fun.
Are you in the shop right now?
No. I'm down. I'm up in my office.
Somebody's behind you, buddy. You gotta.
Gosh. I got someone was watching our house recently, and they came into my office or whatever, and like just absolutely scared the crap out of them because I've got mannequins everywhere. I've got a knight armor in the shop, so I'm used to always walking into a room and having like a mannequin in there. So, but I forget other people are not used to
that. Jay said hi. Hey Jay, how you doing? And if you guys comment, we'll see it. Here, wait a minute. Let's see if I can even. Hi.
Oh, look at that.
Check it out. All right, we got a couple people joining us. Why don't we go into what we did over the last few weeks? There was an event that we went to, and there was some cool pictures. I want to go over some photos. Actually, so I'm going to talk about the event in San Diego, which was really cool. Here, let's see if this works. You guys see the pictures? Awesome.
Nice.
So, San Diego Air and Space Museum actually put on a 55th anniversary Apollo 11 event on July 20th, this past year, July 20th, 2024, just a few weeks ago. Or it's over a month ago now. Wow, it's already September 3rd. And it was so cool. Charlie Duke was supposed to be there. He couldn't make it. There was some flight issues that weekend. I barely made it out there. And I went with Dan Kleiman, who's one of our graphic artists, really good friend of mine, and we actually wound up driving down from LA. But Charlie Duke couldn't make it, but Buzz Aldrin was the guest of honor, and of course Jerry Griffin there you see, and the folks from the Air and Space Museum were so gracious to put this black tie event on. And it was really cool. I had never been to the San Diego Air and Space Museum, and it's absolutely incredible. And I'll go through some of the photos here. There was a whole bunch of the Wally Schirra collection on display here. This is his flight jacket from Apollo 7, and just all of his Navy stuff here, which is neat because I have some of his stuff as well. Here's his Mercury Gemini era flight suit, and we have one of these as well, actually, the Foster Wear flight suit. This is something we're looking at doing in the future. This was, on stage, Buzz and Jerry Griffin. There was a recorded segment that Charlie did, which was really nice. And then I got to meet some of the people that were in the audience and some of the people that were sitting there with us. This guy, Captain Royce Williams, who is a Korean War fighter ace in a day. And his mission, his ace status was actually classified until like 2002 or something. I mean, this is in the 50s, and 50 years later, they finally made it public, and mostly because he had shot down Russian MiGs, and they were not announcing that the Russians were actually flying over Korea. So that was really very interesting. So Captain Williams was very gracious. I talked with him for about half an hour, and I believe he's 99 years old. So a senior officer from the Korean War and Vietnam period as well. He was in Vietnam as a captain of a ship, and yeah. So from there, after San Diego Air and Space, we went to the USS Midway. Of course, she's docked there. Incredible museum. This is a Corsair on the hangar deck, and of course, San Diego being a Navy town, there was some aircraft carrier in town there. So that was really neat to see. Another cool thing, since we were there with some of the Lunar Replicas crowd, they have a sort of a mock-up of Bird 66, which is the helicopter that picked up Apollo 11 and 12 and 13 and everything. So, and then of course you see the UDT team over here. They we recreated sort of one of the photos, the iconic photos of stepping off from the helicopter. So that was really, really neat that was there. And they obviously they put this ramp there for that reason. It's neat to see also the pilots' ready rooms. This is where they get ready before they go on a mission, and they're actually really comfortable chairs and stuff. So this is what it would look like. And of course, the Midway was actually in service until I think like the 2000s or something like this. She was in service a long time. So late World War II replacement aircraft carrier that then served all the way through, into the modern era. Similarly here, I mean, all the upgrades to computer systems and radar and sonar and all the. This is the Air Traffic Control Center. And then, of course, I'm a big old TV fan, as anyone can imagine. We had to stop by Squad 51. This is in Los Angeles. On the way back, we were driving back. This is in Southwest Los Angeles. The fire station number 127, which was used for Squad 51 on the TV show Emergency, and it is named after they renamed it after the producer, the creator of Emergency. It wasn't just Jack Webb. So that was a really neat trip, being able to see. Hang on a second. Here we go. There it is. Okay, that was a really neat trip, being able to see all those amazing things and getting to meet Buzz Aldrin finally. Always nice to see Jerry Griffin. It would have been nice to see Charlie, but I'm glad he got home safely. It was that weekend, Brandon. It was that weekend that all of the
flight
IT stuff
issues
went down with which you know a lot about, being an IT professional. I mean, that was just a Charlie Foxtrot, as we say.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a mess.
So then, just a few weeks ago, let's see if I can share that other screen here. We went to look at that. We went to the Henry Ford Museum, which was absolutely incredible. And one of my favorite things ever are the Moldoramas from the 1964 World's Fair. And some of them are still surviving. I think there's a couple here, a couple of the Museum of Chicago Science and Industry Museum. And I was just fascinated by this. This one was Henry Ford. And of course, we got the one that was the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. For a couple of bucks, you can watch the mold being done. They chill the outer mold and then pump plastic into it, which is something Brandon is really familiar with doing, prototyping and 3D modeling and stuff. But this was like a 3D model of its time. I mean, watching this come to life in 1964 was the closest you could get to instant gratification for making something. And it was these steel molds. But I think, what did you tell me, that they're chilled, right? They chill the mold.
Yeah, they run water through it, I'm sure, or some sort of coolant.
So there's coolant in these pipes, and then the mold is filled actually from the bottom, and it's hollow. It's a hollow mold. I should have had it with me. I didn't bring it with me, but there's some really neat stuff. Like this is also from the 1964 World's Fair. This is the IBM kiosk. I mean, it's just sort of stuff from around the country and around the world that was innovative in some way. The whole museum was designed to be a museum to industry, just how American technology and industry works. It's not just a car museum. So this is a display about the Eames chair and how the Eames couple designed this chair to be completely modular and totally made out of pressed plywood and removable leather panels and stuff. It's just this incredible display. And then of course they had steam engines, and they had some old steam engines. Like real old steam engines. Oh, here's another Moldorama. Oh, that was Lincoln. That's right. Lincoln was on there. This is a steam electrical generator. There's a handful of steam engines here that are prior to 1800. This is a copy, in the time period, copy, like a ripoff, a knockoff of a Watt engine, I believe. Actually, it says right here the Dudley engine, 1790s.
Yeah.
This is an actual one. Somebody, one of Henry Ford's agents went overseas, took this thing apart brick by brick and shipped it back, and they rebuilt it here sometime in the 20s or 30s or something when they opened this museum originally as a school. But they had, this is a 1760, the new common engine. This is one of the oldest surviving original steam engines in the world. And all the basics are still there. I mean, you have a boiler, you have pistons. This is a walking beam engine, and I believe it's a pump, right? I think it was a pump. And then they got into some newer stuff. Like this is an electro steam engine. It's a steam electric generator for, I think, one of the Ford plants back in the 30s or so.
Those columns in the center there is a really interesting design, because they integrated the radiators to heat the building, which I thought was super.
Oh, that's cool. Right. Yeah, that's right. I think I took a picture of one of those. You can see them in a bunch of the pictures. These are radiators right here. It was not cold out when we were there, but it was just this. So the Henry Ford was incredible, and it was right up our alley, kind of. It was just this. I mean, look at the design of this thing. It's just this gorgeous machine.
Massive.
Then of course they had stuff on aviation, and this is an early Fokker Wright plane. With sleds on it and stuff. And then of course the cars. So they talked about the innovation of racing. It really wasn't a car museum, but they had the innovation of racing, and of course the winning car at the 67 Le Mans. Ford also won the 66 Le Mans, which was, the movie like Ford versus Ferrari. That was 66 Le Mans with Ken Miles, and those guys, Bruce McLaren, those guys won 66. This is the car unrestored from the Dan Gurney, AJ Foyt car, and of course we had to get a cool picture in front of it. We got a couple pictures in front of the AJ Foyt, Dan Gurney 67 Le Mans GT40 Mark IV. And this is actually the trophy and a bunch of stuff signed by him. There was also, I think there was a steering wheel, but here, and then a Carroll Shelby hat. But just really neat. I mean, I love the detail of the tires, and everything is original. It's just that, that's the stuff you don't see, the Goodyear blue streaks. And of course, they had a Jeep in the museum. This is sort of a history of just automobiles. And it was really neat because you really kind of see the evolution. And this, Brandon can talk about the diner and the McDonald's sign.
Yeah, that diner was so freaking cool that they had it in there. Did we actually, honestly, I don't think we read that plaque. Did we talk to anyone about like the one on the right of the diner there? You can't see it in that picture that you currently have up. But
oh, this plaque down here?
Yeah, I don't think we actually looked at that, so I don't really know what year and everything that was from.
So I looked it up afterwards.
Oh, okay.
1947.
Oh, dope.
So this was a real diner. It was in service for like a handful of years in the 40s. And then by about 49 or something, they had brought it to the museum. So this was ordered custom from a diner company that all they did was make diner cars. I think they made trains, and they also made diner cars, for restaurants and everything. But this was literally just picked up and moved. And completely preserved. And not only that, was you could actually sit there and eat in the diner. It was an active diner. It was one of the restaurants at the Henry Ford. And I grew up near diners. I'm from Philadelphia area, which also has, New Jersey is famous for diners and stuff, Southern Jersey. And South Jersey diners are kind of like the sort of old Philadelphia diners. A lot of them have closed. This literally looked, felt, smelled, everything like a real diner. Unfortunately, the prices were not quite the same, and they were totally full, so we couldn't get a seat, unfortunately. But
did have the jukebox, the music selection at the tables, which was cool too.
Oh, that's right. They had a Seberg jukebox, and you can actually see the speaker for the Seberg jukebox over there.
I don't know if it was working or not, but yeah, they were there.
Yeah. And like you said, like they had the I don't know if you can see them, but they had the boxes at the tables.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Which are just remote controllers. Actually, it's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
And a little more somber, they actually had Kennedy's car. This is the car that President Kennedy was assassinated in. And they actually used it through the 70s. This was in 1963, but I think they used the car. Oh, here it says here 1977. So they had upgraded the car and used it longer. But they had a whole thing on president cars. This is the Sunshine Special that President Franklin Roosevelt used during World War II. And they even had a car that President Teddy Roosevelt used, or this was a carriage rather. He didn't like cars, apparently. He preferred horse-drawn carriages. So this is the presidential Brougham, I guess, or Brougham 1902 carriage, safety carriage, I guess. And looking at that compared to a Model T Ford, this is one of those blow-up displays. They're really similar. I mean, it is just a horseless carriage. A lot of the coach work is similar, and that was something that they kind of discussed, is that this was not really new. The coach work stuff was not entirely new, but making it not one at a time, but in a manufacturing facility was the industry. And actually, you can see overhead here sort of a reproduction of a gantry crane moving parts around a factory floor. Mm-hmm. That's what this display is, and it was really neat. So then we went on to, we spent about 3 hours here. Like this was just on the inside, we spent a whole bunch of time looking at this incredible museum that was incredibly eclectic. I mean, we barely got to anything. There was a whole thing on glass blowing. There was a whole thing on watchmaking and clocks and stuff. Didn't even go in those rooms because we were just out of time. And the next thing was Greenfield Village. This was absolutely incredible. And I think Brandon and I were both blown away by this collection, this entire town that was built out of original structures from around the country and around the world. And this one was so cool. The actual Wright brothers, the Wright family, as they talk about in here, the Wright family, the mom and dad are almost always forgotten about, and their sister. They had a sister and they had another brother. So this was a really neat piece of history, and the lady who gave a tour in there for us was incredibly knowledgeable. And the fact was that supposedly the Wright brothers got their interest in engineering from their mother. Their mother was the one that could, take apart and put back together anything, and she would fix the stove and fix the, stuff around the house and things like that. They got that from her, and that, there would be no Wright Flyer without Mrs. Wright, essentially, Mom Wright. Also, their daughter, the sister of the Wright brothers, was basically their agent, right? She was like their literary agent, I think it was, which I thought was fascinating. But yeah, just some of the buildings around here, like this candy shop was just incredible. They had Lincoln's one of the courthouses that he was a attorney in Illinois in the 1840s. This was his actual courthouse. They picked it up and moved it from Illinois. And there he is in the window. Look at that, on his cell phone. And then, you could, the Logan County Courthouse. And then you could actually take this is a horse-drawn bus but they had mechanical buses and gas powered buses and stuff, that all historic vehicles around here that you could take. Um, just every little nook and cranny was just packed with history. This was actually was it Thomas Edison's, or was this Henry Ford's?
No, it was Henry's. That he visited that shop so often that he just ended up moving a desk in there. So that
This was his desk for working on watches or something, or was it
just
like
tinkering?
just a
Yeah, I
tinkering
think
desk?
watches, but yeah, tinkering in general.
Mm-hmm. So this exact unrestored, untouched desk and stool is Henry Ford's tinkering desk. You know,
I
just
love
sitting
that
there in the
tiny
corner.
little.
No, there was no signage, no nothing. It was just that's what it was. Everything it's like the Smithsonian. Everywhere you moved, it was just history, and it was just amazing. They picked up and moved a roundhouse over here, and they had several working steam locomotives. They're one of the restoration shops in the country. Um, Here was a glass blowing shop, and then we got a ride in a Model T Ford. So this is an original Model T. I think she said it was something. It was a taxi cab from something like 1920 or something.
Yeah.
1919, and they run them every day, all day.
Mm-hmm.
And we took a little ride in this because the rest of the place was huge. So we went around a little Cotswold Manor here that they picked up and moved. This is a bunch of Thomas Edison stuff from New Jersey, and all of it. This entire section of the town. This is all Edison buildings.
Back to the Edison. I think that's his original lab that he worked out of.
Yes,
And,
that's right.
And on, I think it was Space Hipsters recently. It was like a week after we got back. Someone posted a picture and of Neil Armstrong riding by the front of that on a bike.
Oh, is that right? While it was in Fort Myers or in Detroit?
No, here. Yeah, exactly here. He was visiting the Henry Ford Museum, and
Well, what's really cool about this also is the grass and the dirt. It's also the same grass and dirt and trees and stuff. They picked everything up as it was in New Jersey, and plunked it down here. So it's if you went to sleep in it, you could wake up and it was the same thing. Incredible. And one of them was they actually said I think it was the barn, the wooden building. Farmers when he moved out of there, farmers and the locals took pieces of the building and used it to fix their barn or something like that. Ford went around, agents of Henry Ford went around buying up all of the siding and all the pieces that had been removed and restored the building when they brought it back to Detroit. So it's just kind of unbelievable. I basically said the whole time, this is what I would do if I had $100 billion in the 20s to make my own museum.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, he was worth the equivalent of $200 billion.
Yeah, it was insane. I mean, and for all the history of Ford and everything, this whole place was designed as a school.
Yeah.
And it was a school. It still is a school. But, shortly after it became a school, within a few years, there was pressure to make it a museum. And they wound up opening the doors. It wasn't just for school kids. But they would have school lessons in all of these buildings. I think some people lived on site. The steam trains and stuff were a school to teach steam engineering. It was a whole thing. It wasn't just just a play place,
That second building there, that gray building on that last picture there, the second story, because this is all Edison's compound that Ford moved here. That the second story of that building is where the light bulb was invented. That's
incredible. Yeah. And we didn't have time to go through all of this. I mean, we were there for a good 4 or 5 hours, and you need a week at minimum. And this isn't. And I one of the guides said, everything that's out here, it's a minor fraction of the entire collection. There is so much more, and they haven't been able to put it out on display yet. So that was Greenfield Village and Detroit. There's a little bit more we'll talk about in a minute, but I wanted to get to a couple of things first. I can see you have one in the background here, but I wanted to show the USS Hornet hats that we just released. These are the splashdown hats that were worn by the crew not by the astronauts. Astronauts wore a hat that looked like this. This is very similar to what they did for Apollo 13. It's very similar to what they did for Apollo 11. It's a chain stitch embroidery. They're, they look rough hewn because they are. This is done basically by hand. So this is what the Apollo 11 hats also look like. It said USS Hornet, astronaut, Armstrong, Apollo 11. And a few years ago, we did a version which Brandon will show you. We did a version that used chain stitch. The same. This is our reproduction of the 13. We did a crew version in chain stitch, but we decided to do that because we thought it was really cool and it's kind of an homage, but also, but this is an actual original one from Apollo 11 from the Hornet, including the original button.
Oh, no way.
This is a crew hat that was worn aboard Apollo, the recovery ship USS Hornet, which is in San Francisco. It's a Harvard Hat Company hat. You can see it's actually a 7 1/8.
Oh, mine's a 7 3/4. My massive.
But
you can tell, like, if you hold that one back up, like it's spot on the inside.
Well, you see the red. We had the shells remade too. I mean, it wasn't just the outside embroidery. The shells of the hats, these wool hats, were also exactly recreated, and we even redid the tags and stuff like that so that they would match. Let's see something here. Oh, that's interesting. So this run, we decided to do an exact replica using, of the crew version using machine embroidery. So this is the original. This is the repro. We got it as pretty. Actually, we cleaned it up a little bit because the stitching on the original is not great. So we made these a little bit nicer and better. This also shrunk quite a bit because it is wool. So, but these turned out. I'm really proud of how these turned out. And each one comes with the pin. So this is how you'd see these guys wearing them with the pin on it.
The pin on the side is cool.
Yeah.
Do you know why they went with the chain stitching for the astronauts and the regular stitching for the crew?
Well, I think it's because they only had to do a handful of ones for the astronauts. I think Nixon got one too because he was aboard. The captain of the ship, the admiral of the squadron, was there. So they were one-offs. Whereas they made by the thousand. They probably made 1,000 of them. They're still around. I mean, like I have one. A couple people that were in the comments commented that they had them. And every recovery ship had these. I have several original recovery ship hats. It's just sort of an interest, a parallel interest to my. I'm interested in naval history, so having Navy ships involved in Apollo lunar recoveries and stuff, and Gemini and Mercury. Like they were used. The Intrepid, I think, was used for the first couple of Gemini pickups. Also, another museum ship in New York City. So another one, of course, near and dear to our heart is the Apollo 15 USS Okinawa hat. Oh, also notice on the brim, you have this, in this case, they were an all Air Force crew, so they got what they call the farts and darts, which is the Air Force, a senior officer, lieutenant colonels and above have farts and darts on the brim of their, Air Force cap. Similarly, the Navy, they have what they call scrambled eggs. So the senior officers and VIPs got the scrambled eggs, and obviously the astronauts got these scrambled eggs. These Air Force guys weren't going to go for scrambled eggs, so they went with the farts and darts. So what's interesting though, the Apollo 15 ones, they were not personalized. The only difference between the crew version and the astronaut version was the farts and darts. So this is an original Apollo 15 USS Okinawa crew hat. So effectively, This is an original. All it would have had was the farts and darts, and it would have made it the astronaut version. We recreated this almost exactly. There's a certain amount of tells and stuff that we put in everything so they're not exactly the same, so they can't be pawned off as an original. These are incredibly rare, and we did these. And actually, this is the one we did a sample of this a number of years ago, and brought it to Al Warden's funeral. So at the bar after the funeral, several people were wearing the farts and darts hat, the USS Okinawa hat. So these are super cool. I'm actually wearing the Al Warden Hawaiian shirt. This was designed by Michelle Rausch, who was a friend of Al's and collaborated on some books with him. The basis of this has I don't know if you can see it. Here, you see on the sleeve here, there's like a tiki head. You see that right there? Well, this is supposed to be Al as a tiki, and this is the original oil painting of that design by Michelle. No, this is what got scanned to then become part of the shirt. So I have the original. This isn't a print. This is an actual oil painting.
Yeah, you can see it
by Michelle, and this is what the basis of this shirt is. Al as a tiki, and it really you can see him in it. It's his smile and his eyes and stuff like that. Like this was so really the happy astronaut tiki. So Michelle Rausch, Rausch.com is her website. She has wonderful work, and they wrote a children's book together. Actually, Astronaut Al Goes to the Moon. So check that out. What else do I want to show you guys? Let's see.
Do you have the window there?
Oh yeah, yes I do actually. Great segue. This is a magnificent piece.
Oh, so beautiful.
It really is like it's almost 20 pounds. It's a 1-to-1, not only scale recreation. I mean, it is, I believe, the same materials and everything. It's a polycarbonate double window with a injected rubber seal between the two windows. I think the hardware is all aircraft hardware, and it is made out of steel or aluminum or something. I mean, it's heavy. The only thing that's not original is the backing plate. The backing plate is plastic, but even that has some really cool features. Like you rotate this upwards to take the back off, and then you can put any 12-inch round picture you want in there. This happens to be the Earthrise photo, but these are so cool, and the folks at Concord Aerospace, Mert and the guys at Concord, did this incredible job with this, and we kind of helped them along the way to say, like, no, keep going, don't stop. Like they're really cool. People are going to buy them, trust me. And they had some long-term production delays, and people were getting just kind of tail end of COVID and stuff. So they have these now, and they also are creating different versions, because different missions had different types of hatch windows. This was the window that was in the door. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 5 windows in the Apollo Command Module. This was the round window in the door, and just a really cool piece of art, piece of history. They even went so far as to, you can hang this on your wall. They calculated where to hang it so that it's either straight up and down, or it's at the 44-degree tilt that it would be on the Apollo hatch itself.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's two different places to hang it for two different. You can either hang it like this, or you hang it like this, so it's square. That's the level of detail that I like working with people that have that level of detail.
I love it. Since you have the Earthrise photo in there, there was changes made to that window and the hatch and over different Apollo missions. Is
Yeah, the
that
hatch. I
specific
think
to
the hatch stayed
Halloween?
relatively the same, but the window changed because they changed. I think they changed the way the shades were put on there, and then also I think during the J missions they started. They had more equipment that they could clip to it for photos and for range finding and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
Of course, there was also the sim bay on, like Apollo 15 had the sim bay, 15, 16, and 17 had area. Well, that one actually, that this command module does not have the sim bay on it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
I
one
didn't
of
know if
those
that was
things that.
Apollo 8 being. Does it come with the Earthrise photo?
Yes.
Or
Oh yeah, yeah. That photo was in there when it comes with it, and I think the 13 one might come with the photo that was taken from the command module of the busted command module. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what comes with the 13 one, but we'll find out.
That would be cool. That would be super cool.
What do you have printing there? You got anything working on behind you by any chance?
No, I don't. They've been pretty quiet the past month or so. Just been busy doing other stuff. I used it for the Herald for my blinker light, my turn signal light. This is the original one, which is like completely dry rotted plastic, and that's all it was, and it had threads on it. It was a terrible way to mount the flasher unit on the backside of the dash because they incorporated the threads on the actual flasher itself.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, which was really dumb because over time the plastics dried out.
Yeah, just the plastic is gonna go.
Yeah, it's brittle, so you can't buy these anymore. So I just 3D printed my own with new threads and everything on it, and you can't tell inside the car, which is cool.
That's cool. That's the stuff that's really neat. I have in the Cobra van actually, the washer fluid reservoir is a plastic tank that clips into a holder that then has
right?
a little screwed in, like a garden hose style screw with a hose that then goes to the pump. Right. Original one was really thin plastic. It was like the plastic they make blister cards out of for toys, real thin. So of course today you just put your finger right through it, like it's totally dried out. And there's a guy that's making them specifically for Ford Econoline vans from 1960, like 3 to 66, 67, completely 3D printed, and it even has the two plastic nipples on it for the hoses and for the airline and stuff. It's just really totally niche, but this guy makes them, and sure enough, it is better made. It's ABS plastic. It's better made than the original one.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's super cool. I like stuff like that.
So I'm sure you guys saw, and I'll actually put a let's see if I can do this. I see everybody's comments here. Thank you so much for commenting and sticking with us tonight. This is a cool little thing we're doing. So we haven't done one of these in a long time. So a lot's happened. A lot's happened with the Astro Vet, which I haven't shown anybody yet, but let's see if I can do that. We're working on some other projects that are going on. Brandon, why don't you talk about the trip we took to look at the B-25 Sandbar Mitchell?
Oh yeah, that was super cool. I didn't know what to expect. Max definitely knew a lot more about this whole project because he had met with Patrick. Is that his name?
Yep.
He had met with Patrick before, and they had spoken stuff. And so I didn't really know what we were going to. Max was like, "Jump in the car. We're going to see something cool, basically." And
and we took the long road there along these. Tell them about the houses and stuff.
Oh yeah, these insane houses there. There's no middle ground there where we were at near Detroit. It's either super poor or just next level high end homes. 20,000 square foot homes. But yeah, this whole B-25 restoration is truly incredible. The amount of detail that they're going into to save this plane, and down to recreating rivets, the original rivets, and not just using a standard, off the shelf airplane rivet. They had the original ones remade. And the picture that's up right now, you can see these inspection marks that are over some of the rivet holes there, and they're actually recreating those marks on parts of this plane that'll probably never be seen again, years from now when they have to, take sections off to maybe do repairs or inspections or whatnot. But no one's ever going to see them. They're going to be there because they're making this thing exactly the way it would have been when it rolled off the factory floor, essentially. So
this is literally when they made the panels. When North American got the panels from, I guess this is Reynolds aluminum, which is like Reynolds wrap. This is literally from the same company that makes Reynolds wrap. Because they're using a plane that has been untouched. It was the two of the planes that they're using to put together to one plane, plus all of the new pieces that they're making. These planes were untouched. They weren't reused after the war, or at least one of them was not reused after the war. So this is exactly as it came from the factory. This plane left the factory. It was being flown to Russia under the Lend-Lease program and crashed in Canada someplace. So it never had a chance to be re-arsenaled or reused for, they would use them for surveying and taking photographs and stuff for geological purposes. Some were used for firefighting. They'd have tanks for firefighting put aboard. That's what the main plane that they're restoring crashed because it was a firefighting plane. It was just overloaded. But like this is literally put on with like a bingo blotter. It was this and this rivet you need to pay extra attention to or something. Like these are structural. They have to be a different type of rivet or something. And that's how they marked them on the factory floor. And sometimes it wasn't even in the drawings. It's just like, this is what this line did. They'd make an adjustment, and the next 20 planes were like this. So they're actually recreating that, which is incredible. Also, there's been a debate on what the actual color green was on some of these planes and where green was painted. This is an original panel, but the new one they're going to put aboard is going to look just like this, other than the bullet holes and stuff. This is which was done after it crashed. Just people up there with a shotgun were taking pot shots at the aluminum plane in the 50s or 60s or whatever. This is gonna look exactly, the new panel is gonna look exactly like this, even down to these markings, the red markings that say Reynolds Aluminum 040, which is just a level of detail. And we did a whole video about this, but that's just a level of detail that's just absolutely incredible. And we saw some of it here. They were recreating the spars. This is all a test fit. And what are those things called again? The little rivet holders?
Oh man, if you want to ask me, it's got a weird name.
I want to say Zerk fitting, but that's not it.
Honestly, that's
clamp on or something.
Yeah, it's like a weird name, like Zerk or something like that. But
yeah, so they test fit this. I mean, they basically build this thing 6 times. They have the original pieces. They put them. They find where they go. It's like a jigsaw puzzle from the crash. They inspect that piece. That piece doesn't pass. They have to make another piece. So they put that down. Then they take it apart. Then they make another piece and put it back together. And then they send it out for stress testing. And then they put it back together again and then paint it. So,
and then they heat treat the aluminum as well,
right. That's right. They heat treat and then have it inspected. I mean, it's just this tedious process, but they're bringing it back to flying condition. So, and this is what that looked like actually. So Sandbar Mitchell, this plane on the right is what it was in service. They had never the actual plane, the main plane that they're recreating, was never put into service. It was used as a training plane up until the 1950s or so, and then it got converted here in the middle as a water drop plane for a company up in Canada. And then on the left is what they would like to do. They're actually taking sort of the history of one plane that flew, and they're combining that history plus this plane and turning it into a combat configuration B-25. So that was really cool. Did anybody look up the rivet holders question? Pony, did you find out what the rivet holder or the placeholder? Here, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I'm looking it up too. Let's see who can get to
rivet holder. Clico, right? Yes, thank you. So, why were we actually in Detroit? We were in Detroit for the Woodward Dream Cruise, which is this annual event that spans Woodward Avenue, which is from Detroit all the way out to Pontiac, Michigan, where this private, 16 miles of car show, and basically any spare parking lot along the way becomes this car show, and then at the end of it, everybody goes and does burnouts and stuff. The Woodward Avenue does a turnaround. It's like a divided highway kind of, and it has this turnaround, and in the turnaround, it's this big, huge car meet. They say 40,000 cars and 1 million people, and some people they've been doing this for 30 years. So this is just a random hotel along the way here, along Woodward. There was all of the Ford GT guys, and these are all modern, from the 2007 or so re-release of the Ford GT all the way up through the 2019, 2020 Ford GTs. And it was so cool. It was just the most amazing thing. I don't have a ton of pictures because we were just talking to people and meeting people, and I just, hey, come check this out and talk. So we went and did our Cobra thing for the first couple of days, and then they had asked us actually to come on the news and talk about NASA at M1 Concourse, this private club. It's just sort of like a clubhouse and event center for car stuff. They asked us to come talk about NASA as of 1964, because this is the 60th anniversary of the 1964 New York Auto Show, where the Ford GTO, or the Pontiac GTO and the Ford Mustang was released. The new version of the Corvette was released. They did a whole bunch of stuff at M1 Concourse, and we came with our Bowler's Lunar Replicas booth. And here's Brandon taking a look at the nicest Datsun 240Z I've ever seen. All original.
The only original one left.
I think it was like 16,000 miles on it or something like that. Like it's literally an untouched Datsun. And this is what the place looked like. This is the night before the main event, or the night of the first night of the event. And there was a big stage. There was this huge tent. We were actually inside this tent where our display was, but up at the clubhouse over here, we did that's where we did the talks about the Apollo program and the future of the Apollo program and the current upcoming Gemini program, a la August of 1964. Coincidentally, the NASA jackets look exactly. There's almost the same exact color as a Sunbeam. Whatchamacallit?
The Daytona, right?
The Datsun Daytona, or not Datsun. What kind of car was this again?
It's a Chrysler, right? Is it? Gosh,
something. Yeah. It was. We had it on the site. It was these two cars were absolutely the exact same color in person as the NASA jackets, and we walked around like this the whole time. Actually, this was really fun to be able to go there and chat with people as 1964 astronauts, which I thought was really neat to be able to present that to people. A lot of people came up and talked to us and said, my father worked on the program from Detroit. They did stuff, General Motors, and whatever, supplied parts for this, that, and the other thing. Same thing actually with the B-25 project. The B-25, a lot of those parts are made by Fisher Body Works, which is a division of General Motors. And, it was just one of those things, like they were just in the right place at the right time with the right crowd, and it was really cool. Brandon, had you been to Detroit before? What was the coolest thing that you noticed in Detroit?
I'd never been. That was my first time going to Michigan at all. So definitely not ever been to Detroit. It wasn't like, I don't know. A lot of people kept saying it was a bad place, like especially where they're in Pontiac. But I mean, obviously there was some rough places, but overall it was really nice. The places we went and stuff. But I mean, the Henry Ford takes the cake as far as the coolest thing. Like that was so unexpected. I've never heard anyone talk about it. It's like just this hidden gem that everyone needs to go to because it's so informative.
It was by far that museum was one of the most incredible museums I think I've ever been to.
Yep.
And I was just absolutely blown away. And everybody should go there. They it's like the best kept secret, right? Everybody in Detroit knows about it. Every school kid, anyone that's lived near there has been to the Henry Ford. But if you're not from around there, it's not something that you would necessarily know. I've known about it because it's just like, oh, it's a great museum, and I assumed it was just like, okay, it's a Ford company museum or something, right? I've even followed them on Facebook, but the scale of this place is just, you can't describe it. It's like Disney World. Like you go to Epcot, and Epcot's reproductions of Small Town USA, and they've got the steam engine, and they've got Tom Sawyer, and they've got, Future World and stuff like that. This is the real thing. They brought the actual buildings. And that's just what's incredible about it,
Yeah, it was incredible.
See if this works. Oh, here we go. I have the slide deck that I did.
Oh.
Let me see if it actually works. This is a fun little demonstration. Actually, we talked about the history of NASA as though it were 1964, which is like an interesting time period for NASA. It was not. They were still, let's see if I can, okay, here we go. They were still figuring out, what's the next step. So this is the deck, actually. So we talked about, and this is what they wanted. They said, oh, this is going to be 1964 in this room. So can you come and talk about NASA as of 1964? This is, of course, our introduction, and Astrovet Endeavor does all of this stuff, and we're doing stuff with the Corvette and everything. Here's Charlie Duke and Jerry Griffin and Jerry Bostic, Bill Moon. Hey guys, if you happen to be watching, how you doing? And then I literally said, I'm going to be the Deputy Communications Director of NASA as of 1964. Welcome everybody. This is a presentation brought to you by so happy to see all of our members of the press and constituents here. I did the whole thing up, but it was really neat putting this together, talking about how did we get to 64. And Project Mercury was really only a year of launches. These 7 astronauts, which were all we had. These were the 6 flights that we did. 2 of them weren't even orbital. 3 of them were orbital, and then we weren't even going to do the 6th one. There was going to be another one with Alan Shepard, but it got canceled. It's really just proving orbit and some physiological things. I mean, that was really sort of the science behind some of these. The first 2 were just pop up and down, see if we could do it. This was sort of the Russian space race. And I think that beyond that, Gemini was much more scientific, much more leapfrog. The attempt was now to leapfrog the Russians, not just catch up. And they were able to prove some of this stuff before we were. This is, by the way, isn't the presentation I gave. This is the sort of commentary that happened after the presentation. A lot of really great questions about orbital dynamics and some stuff that
Really,
actually
really
stumped
engaging.
me, which is not hard to do, but and if we had to answer it one more time, if we went to the moon, I was just gonna clock somebody, But well, we met Buzz Aldrin, so we have to punch moon deniers
Oh,
in the
true.
face.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it was really presented as this is what we're going to do. We want to find out, can we do long duration space flight? Can we be up there? Can we live in space for 2-3 weeks? Can we have these spacesuits where you can use your fingers and move around outside the craft without drifting off or losing too much speed or whatever? I mean, there was all these theories around this time. What would happen? It's non-trivial to be able to close your hand in a glove, in a sealed, pressurized suit glove. And then what would happen to you, physiologically? What would happen by being outside there? Is there radiation issues? Are there, pressure differentials? Can you sleep in space? Can you digest in space? I mean, like, there's all sorts of stuff they didn't know, and it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating to talk about this as though we're there. And all of the stuff inside this presentation are actual photos from prior to 1965 and photos and concept drawings, because concept drawings were super important at this time. It was really how they sold the space program, were these concept drawings. So they were going to actually try a pack on the back of one of the Gemini missions. I think it was Gene Cernan who was going to try and get to this movable pack. I can't remember the EMU. Anyway, Bruce McCandless, who was eventually on the shuttle program, who actually tested it. They also tested a version indoors, inside Skylab, but he wasn't able to get to it. There weren't enough handholds or something on the outside of the craft. He was getting really fatigued getting there. They told him to go back, so they canceled this. But that's the type of stuff. And 64 was such an interesting time because they didn't know. They had just done these Mercury missions, and Gemini was kind of a crapshoot, and it leapfrogged itself. Eventually it really started to gain momentum. They were launching them very quickly, and they proved orbital rendezvous. They got really good at it. They rendezvoused with the Aegina many, many times. And they did it all on top of a ICBM. They didn't have to develop a new rocket. They did it on top of a Titan II. And it was a powerful rocket, but it only had a payload of 8,000 pounds. So they had to send up several rockets, for rendezvous. They sent up one rocket, then they launched another one. Gemini 6 and Gemini 7 were launched, or were supposed to launch within a few hours of each other or something, and it didn't work. They had to move the flights around a little bit. But the Aeginas would be launched on top of an Atlas, the same time while they're sitting there waiting in the Titan for the other one to go. So then I talked about, well, how are we going to do this? Who's going to do it? The next group of astronauts, groups 2 and 3, were selected within short order. And these were the actual press photos for Gemini 3 with Gus Grissom and John Young, which was scheduled for March of 65. Kennedy actually, did I have the Kennedy picture here?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, no. That's in the Saturn. That's in the Saturn section. So I said, what's next is Project Apollo, and we're going to the moon, and how are we going to do it? And this is a concept drawing from 64 of the Saturn V rocket, and it's going to have a payload of 116,000 pounds. I mean, it's like this. You're going from 80,000 to 116,000. Actually, not 80,000. I'm sorry, 8,000. 8,000 to 116,000. I mean, this is a significantly different rocket. Even the Saturn 1 was a huge leap from the Titan, and we started moving the Saturn 1s, or the Saturn 4, which is a version of the Saturn 1. And Kennedy actually, President Kennedy visited there a week before he was shot. This is one of the last things he did, was visit the Space Center. I think the day before he was shot. He he was visiting an Air Force base that was doing programs for Apollo towards the Saturn, Saturn V program and the Titans for the Gemini program. So this was also the first time we had actually leapfrogged the Russians. We had a higher payload that was capable at that point with the Saturn IV Block II payload. And of course, at the same time, they were developing the Lunar Excursion Module, which then became just the Lunar Module, built by Grumman at Bethpage, New York. And again, this is a build model from that time and the concept drawings from that time as well. And how to do rendezvous and, having a craft that really doesn't work on Earth, but it'll work in space and on 1/6 gravity. I mean, like, it's just such an interesting time. And they were inventing stuff to make it happen. Computer systems, lighter, smaller computer systems and stuff. And building the buildings to be able to do it. The vehicle assembly, or the vertical assembly building, and the mobile launch platforms, crawlerways and stuff. So, and then what's next? At that time, they were thinking of doing, having a permanent research laboratory in space. There was the MOL program with the Air Force, which was, later it was found out it was a spy program, basically, reconnaissance. That was then folded into NASA and then didn't really go anywhere. But the Mars was actually on the schedule. That was a real thing up until probably about 1969. And they sent, what was it, the Sojourner, or there were probes that were sent there in the 60s and 70s. Mm-hmm. A few of them didn't. It's either Viking or Sojourner. I don't remember. Pony would probably know. Pony, what were the Mars probes that were sent out? He's typing. No. So that was the presentation. We had, and then we went around just talking to people for 2 days, and it was just, it was a really neat 4 days. It was a 2-day event, 12 hours each day. And we got to meet a bunch of people that were, Ford and Shelby and Corvette. And then, everybody worked for, either their father or parents or whatever worked for one of the car companies. Just a neat place.
Yeah, a lot of NASA enthusiasts, really, surprisingly. I mean, but like you said, there's a big crossover between, it's just all the engineering of it. It's about the same, the amount of engineering that goes into some of these cars and stuff. And so people tend to be passionate about cars. They're also passionate about NASA.
Yeah. It's a very similar crowd.
Yeah. I forgot to mention in the I believe the sunglasses that Kennedy's wearing are American Opticals, aren't they? The Saratogas. Isn't that what he wore?
Yes, in that picture, I think, actually.
Yeah, I meant to say something that day when we did that thing, and I totally forgot about it until now. It's like, wait, yeah, he wore.
Yes, those are the Saratoga glasses.
Yeah, the Saratogas. Yeah.
Yeah, and we used to carry them. I can still get them. If anybody wants them, let me know. I can get them for you. They're really nice.
Yeah, like the
sort of like a tortoiseshell looking glasses,
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was that was a huge fun event. I'm really glad we were able to do that. I think more of those are coming up. I think there's something we're going to in Chicago in the next in the next month or so. There's an event in New York that I'm going to, which will be interesting. Once I get there, I can kind of talk more about it and feel that out a little bit. It's for a different organization, but it'd be neat to get involved with them. And then products. There's some other products that are coming out that haven't quite been prototyped yet, or they're really early stages. So I don't want to talk about them just yet until we really get them going. But there's some really cool stuff coming up. By the way, if anyone is a Star Trek or Gidget or Chips fan, James Darren, who was a hometown movie star from the 60s through the 2000s. James Darren died yesterday, very unfortunately.
That's right.
And Jimmy, I met him I met him twice, actually. We had a nice conversation both times. He was a real hometown guy, great voice. He played kind of a Frank Sinatra kind of lounge singer character as a hologram, but a self-aware hologram on Star Trek Deep Space Nine that became sort of a member of the crew as a relaxation during this Dominion War. It was really great character, Vic Fontaine. So we'll raise a glass to Jimmy Darren, hometown Philadelphia singer songwriter director. I directed TV shows too.
I'll raise a hat. I didn't bring a drink.
Yeah, that's what that one. I'll have two for you. How about that?
There you go. There you go. Boom.
Jimmy would appreciate it. What else you got going
on? Nothing on my end. I was going to mention I never looked them up, but the Williams. So Jay Leno was there at the Woodward thing, filming about his turbine engine car and
the Chrysler turbine car. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know the reason he was actually there was to, I guess, kind of pick up his turbine car, because I didn't know, like, apparently he drove that thing a lot back when he first got it, and he blew the engine up in it, and they repaired it, and that was the video they were shooting was about him going and getting it, I guess.
So, yeah, that turbine engine, it's really neat. If you guys go look it up, it's really cool.
Very cool.
The history of that turbine car is really neat. And they actually made quite a few of them to test, and then Chrysler canceled the project and they scrapped most of them.
Yeah.
Like they very specifically, they took them all back. They had given them to, employees and testing facilities and stuff like that. They took them all back and scrapped them, except for like 4 or 7 or, I think they made a couple hundred.
Single digit number are left.
Yeah, and so there's no spare parts, So you blow up this turbine engine. I think the idle RPM was something like 19,000 RPM.
Yeah, 22,000 is the idle, and it'll run
22,000. Yeah.
Yeah, when they were pouring it around, showing it, they were dumping like fingernail polish remover in it and just all kinds of stuff, and it didn't care. It could run on anything.
That's right. When they went to take it to France, they would run it on wine.
Yeah.
And when they went to, Italy, they'd run it on ouzo or something. Like they kept everywhere they went, it was a different thing, Yeah,
it's wild. But the problem with that car
Chanel No. 5, I think that was another one. They ran it on Chanel No. 5 perfume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with its idle at like 22,000 RPMs, it had terrible gas mileage just around town. It was really where it became efficient was on the interstates. And I think that was kind of one of the reasons they ended up scrapping it, because it was actually very fuel hungry when you're just idling or just popping around town.
I still want a car that, spools up and whines. It just sits there.
Yeah. A constant turbo sound.
Well, if you think about it, it might have worked for like, overland trucking or something, if they could do a larger turbine.
Yeah.
Trucks. I mean, they're mostly on the highway.
That's a good point. Like a semi with a turbine in it,
or a hybrid. Think about it. Electric turbine hybrid. So in town, it's on an electric motor. Once you get on the highway, spool up the turbine.
Yep.
And then you're good to go.
Dump you a bottle of Jack Daniels in it, and you're ready to go.
That's right. Or tequila or something.
Yeah, whatever.
I think we just came up with the future of the Chrysler turbine engine car. It's a turbine hybrid.
That's it.
That's the basis of hybrid cars, right? Like the in town is on the electric, which is 80 to 90% of how much people drive, right? Mm-hmm. The highway is the 10%, 10 to 20%, and that uses the efficiencies of what's available to them. A little 4-banger engine is more efficient at highway speeds, constant RPM than than an electric motor, which is better for stop and start because there is no idle loss to an electric engine or electric motor. I'm actually going to look into this. I want to do this now. We're gonna make hybrid turbine car. Somebody, you know what? If anybody is watching this now and does that, just give us a call. I'll help. I'll be a tester. Brandon will test it too. In fact, they can turn your little car into hybrid turbine hybrid.
Yeah.
What is it, like a 10cc motor in that thing? What's in
what?
In your Sunbeam, or not the Sunbeam? The
Herald. Yeah, it's 39 horsepower. Yeah, it's like it's
motorcycle engine.
It's a 2 tablespoon motor. Yeah. It's not calculated in liters. It's calculated tablespoons.
Here, wait. We've had a tip here. Way back in 1885, someone tried to power a DeLorean with whiskey from the local saloon, but it blew the fuel injection manifold.
They should hit 88 miles an hour.
Yeah. I love. So when I was a kid, I loved those movies. I would watch them back to back.
Oh, and all-time favorite movies.
I just remember. I remember thinking, I wish they could get steam engines up to 88 miles an hour. And the guy was, knows, if you get this hot, I mean, hell and tarnation's hot. And they put like these blue and pink logs in the and the smokestack had like different colors and stuff. And then Microsoft Train Simulator came out. Do you remember this? I might be the only one dorky enough.
No, my cousin had it.
I loved Microsoft Train Simulator and the Flying Dutchman, which it was later. It was turn of the century, so it wasn't 1880s. Flying Dutchman could go like 120 miles an hour. And I was thinking, man, wow! I wonder if they have the Hell and Tarnation's blue coal or whatever they were throwing into the boiler of this thing to make the Flying Dutchman go 100 miles an hour.
Well, I believe Jay Leno got pulled over in a steam engine car and got a speeding ticket.
No kidding.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's like a.
What, the Doble? I bet the Doble could do it.
Yeah, in that situation, I would want them to give me the ticket because, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care what it costs. I want that ticket to say that I got a speeding ticket in a steam engine car.
In a steam car. When was the last time anyone got a speeding ticket in a steam car?
Yeah, right. I love watching those videos. Like I've seen them a bunch of times. I'll occasionally just pull them up just to watch the starting sequence of the steam engine car. Like you talking about like you had to get up like 2 hours before you needed to leave for work. Just get this thing going. It's so great.
Well, that was the thing with the Doble. The Doble had an incredibly hot boiler, so you could get the Doble up in like 5 minutes instead of 40 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And that's why they were the pinnacle of steam cars. They could outrun, and they were more comfortable than a Rolls Royce. I mean, that was the whole thing. And they were incredibly rare. I think they also lost money on every one of them. No two of them are the same. They kept making changes to them and stuff. It's a ceramic lined boiler or something. I think they're water tube boilers too, so it's high pressure.
Yeah.
Oh no! So the Doble didn't use a boiler. Yeah, I think it used some sort of flash steam system. There wasn't actually like a boiler. So I think it was ready to go pretty quickly. Of course, none of them had condensing engines because that would be insane. You'd have to have giant fins on it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, copper tube heat exchanger. That's right. Inside a ceramic. I believe it was all inside of a ceramic kettle. With copper tubes wrapped around the inside of it. So it really was steam on demand rather than a tea kettle sitting there popping off. Yeah, look at the Dobles. Those are fascinating. It's not much to look at because it's all kind of inside a thing, but it hums when you turn it on. It hums. It's
How beautiful. Do you spell that?
Machine. Doble. Doble.
Okay. I'm looking it up now. So
or BEL.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, Doble steam car. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to look into that later. I just love stuff like that. That's just super cool.
It's so nice to see everybody. Let's see.
There's my little guy right there.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I could show? I have a couple of Astrovet Endeavor update pictures.
Oh.
If I can find the pictures.
Yes, please. Go.
It's a sneak peek. Let's see.
You painted it pink.
I did. Yeah. It's Operation Petticoat.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So the body has gone back on temporarily. It's not.
Oh, okay.
It's just to save a little bit of space in the shop here. As you can see, they've been very busy.
Yeah.
At County Corvette. We're going to be doing the carpets. So take a look. So the original carpets are just rotting away. So they needed to be replaced, and the underlayment underneath them, just because they can possibly hold water or bugs or whatever. The underlayment is getting redone with original style underlay.
Is the floorboards in a Corvette, are they fiberglass as well, or is it steel paint?
Yeah. So this year, so in 71 they are fiberglass. I think by 77 they switched to metal. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So the engine and everything is complete. We're in the process of doing the vacuum systems, which there'll be a separate video on this in a little bit. But you can see we're leaving all the body stuff alone, but all the rubber hoses are going to be, or have been replaced. The clamps even are the original style clamps. This is all GM marked hoses. These are all exact reproductions. They have all the turns and the markings on them as they're supposed to. The brake booster needs to be rebuilt. The brake booster doesn't quite work right now, so that's not good. And we're going through now doing the vacuum system, this is a color-coded hose system that controls the wiper door here. This wiper door lifts up and over, and also the headlights. So this is how the headlight actuators are open and closed. You can see the horns here too. Actually, these are not the original horns, and we got to find an original set of horns. But this is exactly how it would have looked from the factory. The only difference is we may actually add some overspray, because as you can see, when these stripes were painted, they weren't that exact and precise with the masking and stuff. So we think that there may or may not have been a little bit of overspray here. So we're kind of researching that now. But even the little red dots on the back of the cans here, that is exactly what was on. That's how they identified which hose goes to where at the factory as well. So this is all done exactly correctly.
That's cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of vacuum systems on these things. So it's really wiper doors, headlights, and the heating system on the inside of the cabin are all actuated by vacuum motors.
There's a lot of space in front of that motor.
Yeah, well, so the radiator goes there. The radiator actually goes kind of diagonally. And in this case, this is an air-conditioned car, so it has two radiators, basically. One, the main, the main radiator, and then there'd also be, obviously,
they have a transmission cooler? Or?
No, not stock, but I think some of the racing versions of the C3 had a transmission cooler. But this is a 4-speed. The Muncie 4-speed is pretty. I think it was a Muncie. No, I'm sorry. Muncie was the C2 or C1 Corvette, and possibly the C2. C3, I don't know which 4-speed was in it. You can see the steering. This is the steering box. all the brake lines have been done. I mean, we had a video on all of this. The chassis is like brand new. It is exactly as it was from the factory.
Is this the original engine rebuilt?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. How about the transmission? Has it been rebuilt as well?
It has been, the transmission and the rear differential. So everything has been gone through. These are reproductions of the original tires and reproduction rims. I have the original, the second set of tires. So from about 1978, I have the rims and tire, the original 71 rims and the 78 tires. They are in storage.
Can you access the transmission from inside the car?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if they had like a removable transmission tunnel or anything.
No. It's the tunnel is molded in fiberglass. So you can get to the top of the shifter, but that's it. You know, everything else. It's not hard. Everything's open underneath, and you really just have to drop the transmission and the propeller. You know, the shaft, you know, the rear shaft going back to the transmission or the differential pretty easily.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a cross member there. That'd be neat to be able to get it from the top. So Ford actually made a transmission that was accessible from the top. It was called a Ford top loader. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they ever made a car that you could access unless you cut the floorboard out. You wouldn't be able to get to it.
The Triumph Herald is a removable fiberglass. Originally it was pressed cardboard, but those rotted away. So a company makes a fiberglass version. That's what I have in mind. I replaced it with. But yeah, you pull the carpet up, you take the shifter knob off, and the rubber gator slides off through the shifter, and then you just undo some screws and pull up this fiberglass transmission cover, and you can actually disconnect and pull the transmission out inside of the car.
No kidding.
Yeah, super easy to work on.
That's fascinating. Well, these are not as easy, but they're not terrible either. The 454 is the hardest thing, just because it looks like a lot of room right here, but once you put, the air conditioning compressor would go over here. Power steering is already put back, but you have a radiator and a fan. I mean, you literally cannot get to the spark plugs. The back couple spark plugs are almost impossible to get to.
Oh wow!
Like number 4 and
8,
or no, 2, 4, 6. Number 8 and number 3, I think. What is I forget on this engine. It's different than Ford. Ford goes, one of them goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the other goes 2, 4, 6, 8, and 1, 3, 5, 7.
Yeah,
I'm blanking right now for some reason.
I don't remember. Yeah.
Pony had a question: did Al ever make any changes to
Good question.
the Astrovet? As far as I know, no. I never really got a chance to ask him about it, but there are a couple of people that know about these cars because they drove them a lot for the astronauts. There was 1 or 2 guys that would drive. They were young kids back then. They worked in the back room at the, in mission control, or they were, I think it was one of the simulator guys, would drive from Houston to the Cape. They'd say, hey, take a date or whatever, make it a weekend, drive my car to Florida because they wanted the car in Florida for a couple of weeks or something. And then they'd drive it back. The astronauts would fly the T-38s to keep their jet time up and stuff. So there's a lot of guys that drove these cars that weren't just the astronauts. And, yeah. Any other questions while we're here? Got a couple minutes left.
Just making sure.
What bag do you have in the background there, Brandon?
Oh, this is, it's one of Adam Savage's, it's not one of the ones that he sells and makes, but this is one that he sells the templates for, so you can sew your own. So
here, bring it over here. So you sewed this together based on his pattern?
Yeah. So did it out of some white, like faux vinyl leather, and then this is one of the Lunar Replica patches, and then I found some kind of like Mercury style or zipper type thing there, and then did orange on the inside. But
that looks great.
Yeah, found some cool clips there for some nylon. But yeah, I travel with it. Like I carry my laptop in it when I fly and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, this has been really nice. Brandon, it's great to see you as always.
You too,
we did a little bit of everything, gave you the update on several things. And we will leave you with a couple of updates already. Come check out our collaboration with Concord Aerospace on the hatch window. Oh, by the way, there is a piece of leather here. I didn't know this. I mean, I've always seen this. I thought it was like a piece of plastic. No, it's a piece of leather. That's where you would stow a wrench or something like that. It's just, this thing is leather. It's kind of neat.
That's so cool.
Just so cool. It's really neat. I said, wouldn't it be really cool if they put a screen behind here and you could, watch actual footage going by, or we could recreate the footage with, Kerbal Space Program or something. So from my lips to Concord Aerospace's ears, we'll see if that happens. They're usually pretty good at releasing cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And these clips are made for a shield. Like there was a visor that goes over this.
That makes sense.
Which I think that they were going to put out too. There's a whole thing that goes with this at some point. So the hats. It's funny. I have them all sitting here in a pile, and I can't tell which is the original one or not. I think I picked. No, I'm sorry. That's the original one. This is the reproduction one.
Dude, it's very hard to tell. It's just the tag is the only thing that gives it away.
That's the original one.
Yeah, the Hayward tag.
You got to get one of these. You got to get one of the new ones. I'll send you one.
They're very comfortable.
All right, everybody. Thanks for spending your Tuesday night with us.
Much appreciated.
We're going to start doing more of these more often because it's a lot of fun, and why not? We'll bring some other speakers on. We're going to do stuff with Ford. We'll do stuff with Shelby stuff, and then also
our hybrid turbine car.
What? Huh?
And our new business, our hybrid turbine car.
Oh yes, the hybrid turbine car. Which, again, if anyone is doing that, we'll take 80% of your profits. All right, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye.